First and foremost, I would like to greet all of you, the viewers of Jing Padang Media. Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are. My name is Abiel Kon. I'll be talking today. The topic is up there. We just need to explore the South Sudan political complexity and what will it take to bring peace in South Sudan. It is a concern for all South Sudanese wherever you are. But on behalf of Jing Padang Media, I would like to pay my condolences to people that were killed in Abyei, Haned area for the last few weeks. Just want to say our heart and prayers are with people of Abyei community worldwide, whether they're in South Sudan or in diaspora. We are with you. Abyei is part and parcel of Jing Padang community. And therefore, if there's something that happened to them, we need to stand with them shoulder to shoulder, give them the moral support. And my condolences on behalf of the community here in Canada and also on behalf of the community in South Sudan. The same thing goes to our sisters' communities of Twitch as well. These two communities have been living side by side for centuries. And it is unfortunate that, they fought. And in that case, we stand with the victim, the people of Anet, people of Abyei, because they were attacked in the area. And therefore, I just want to say my condolences to them. Going to the topic of discussion today, as I said last week that I've been away from the media and most of the Jing Padang hosts have been away from this network. But we need to come back. I decided to come back this evening to come and talk about South Sudan peace and what will it take to have a peaceful country. It is very unfortunate that down the road after the independence of South Sudan, we resorted to war and people continue to die in all corners of South Sudan. And it is painful whether you are in South Sudan or South Sudanese, whether you are in South Sudan or in diaspora, our hearts are always there. We have our immediate families. Any death in anywhere in South Sudan is the death for South Sudanese. And it needs to be condemned, whether you are dying on the side of the rebels or you are dying on the side of the government. These are the people of South Sudan. And we need to come back to our sense with the South Sudanese and think twice what will it take to bring that peace that we all need it. I will go to the Greater Upper Nile. The Greater Upper Nile has been affected by the civil war, by senseless war, as the leaders of the SPLA, even the president himself used to say that this is a senseless war. It's a war without objective. It's a war that cannot be fought, should have not been fought in the first place. But because of the political differences and the greed for power have resulted into the death of thousands, millions of displacement of South Sudan within the country as well as in neighboring countries. And no one will bring peace in South Sudan except ourselves, we South Sudanese. Regardless of how we look into third world countries, the first world country that will bring peace to South Sudan, they will not bring peace to South Sudan. The peace will come within us. Since we went to war in 2013, South Sudan has never been the same again. When we gain independence, we all celebrate it, amicably wherever you are. We went to the street, we were all voted, but we just want to say that it was because of the SPLA that guided the people of South Sudan to cast their vote. It was the SPLM that guided them that they should cast their vote during the referendum. It is because we were united. That's why we voted in 2011. It is because we love that country, whether in diaspora or in South Sudan. That's why we march and we gain independence. And July 9 is a day that will continue to be celebrated, whether we are in civil war or not. We are all proud of that flag standing there, the flag of South Sudan, the flag that millions of South Sudanese have fallen. They did not realize the independence of South Sudan. But their contribution to the struggle cannot go in vain. And therefore, the martyrs that died during the struggle, including the leader of the SPLA, who died 21 days after he took oath as the first vice president of South Sudan, their death cannot go in vain. I said last week that we, the Red Army, most of us are in the, late, maybe 45, 40, 50s, and the time for us cannot be further than saying that the future belongs to us. We don't have no more future that we can call that the future belongs to us. The future of Red Army is now. The future of Jeshel Amir, whether you were part of the struggle, whether you contributed into the struggle of South Sudan, the future of that country is now. We cannot longer wait and let this country continue to go down the drainage. This is unfortunate for our generation, the generation that actually spent the youth, struggling in the bushes of South Sudan, a generation that were actually, contributed into the independence of South Sudan. If you are in your early 50s or you're in late 40s, therefore there's no more future that you can say the future belongs to us. The future that the people of South Sudan, especially the leader of the SPLM, when they used to say that you are the seed of tomorrow, tomorrow is now. I can say that tomorrow is now. Tomorrow is not the future. It's now that we can talk about what can bring that South Sudan to be a peaceful nation. We are all proud to be a South Sudanese. I myself am very proud that this country have got independent during our lifetime. And I believe thousands of the Red Army that were actually in part of the struggle, and also including our Jeshel Aswad, who actually fought for that independence. Most of them did not make it. Some of them continue to suffer in the city of Juba, the city of Malakal, Wau, Torit, Bor, Warab, Lagos State. We have veterans today that have nothing to gain for that countries. But when Dr. John Garang used to say that if we cannot provide a salt or water or medicine to the people of South Sudan, they can find a river and try to drag even the leaders of SPLM. SPLM continue to be the most powerful political party in South Sudan. SPLM today continue to think that they have something to give to the people of South Sudan. But for how long will the people of South Sudan wait for the SPLM actually to give them what belongs to them? For how long will the people of South Sudan wait for a clean drinking water? For how long will the people of South Sudan wait for the fruit of independence? For how long will the people of South Sudan wait to have a better road? For how long will the people of South Sudan wait to have a better school? Today, our people are in refugee camp. Most of them are in IDP, in the internal displaced camp in the country, including the capital city itself. But I do believe that it's a collective responsibility for all people of South Sudan that will bring peace to the country. I speak for myself that I support this peace agreement. And I urge the leader of SPLM, the leader of political that make a decision making to implement this peace agreement in letter and spirit. Our people have enough death in their hand. Wherever you wake up in South Sudan, there is either a war, a famine, whether you are concerned about how you're going to feed your families, you are concerned about how you're going to take your kid to school, where they're going to go, you are concerned about what you leave behind as the father or as the mother that give birth to the future generation of that country. It is our responsibility with the young generation that we should talk among ourselves that war is not an absolute solution to the conflict of South Sudan. The only solution to the conflict of South Sudan is a peaceful dialogue where the leaders, political leaders, can sit down and reasoning together, where they can work and compromise on the tough issues, where they cannot think about their own political ladder, but they can think about the common people of South Sudan, those who are sleeping in the shelters, those kids that cannot go to school in the morning because no one can look up to them and give them that school that they desire. It is what compels most of us here in diaspora to continue to talk about the issue of that country. Even though most of us can sit back and say that we have nothing to lose if we cannot talk about it. I can go and sleep in my spare time, spend time with my family, with my kids, read them a good night story. But what does bring me and other activists that continue to talk about the well-being of South Sudan, it is that they want to see that country to be left in a good hands. They won't have a South Sudan where they will have a good drinking water, where they may have roads, they will have a school, hospital. If I'm speaking that there's no such service in South Sudan, doesn't mean that I'm against the government. Of course, I'm speaking that such services are not in South Sudan because I want them to be there for those who are there in South Sudan. I want the child of a farmer to have a school. I want a child of a cattle herder. Instead of looking after the cattle, they can even look after the cattle and have a school that they can take their kid to. We need a generation that can read and write in South Sudan. Invest in education, infrastructure, invest in medicine, invest in technology, so that they can compete with the world, because things have changed. I need this peace agreement to be implemented so that we cannot have this big government where we have 5 vice presidents, 550 members of parliament, I think 150 council of state, members of council of state. If I speak against that we need a small government, doesn't make me against the government of South Sudan. Of course, we are standing behind this government because that's what makes you who you are. When we speak about a better South Sudan, we need a change. But we don't require a change that will come through a barrel of gun. We need a change that can be cast, a democratic change, a change that you can go to the ballot and vote, a change of ideas where you can compete, that I'm a better political parties because they can provide this and so, that SPLM can be challenged that has failed to provide services so that the people of South Sudan can decide which direction they want to go. I want to talk about the Upper Nile State. Last week, the governor of Upper Nile State, General Abu visited Balit counties. He was welcomed by hundreds of residents of Balit. This is a sign of peace that people of South Sudan wanted in Upper Nile State. A few months ago, was the Deputy Governor James Toro went to Maban. I think he went to Mayo County, went to Maiwut, and tour for a message of peace and reconciliation. As the citizens and members, as the sons of Upper Nile State, I want our people to go back to where they used to live. I was born and grew up in Malakal, where we were all equal citizens of that state. Today, our state has been raped by the issue of the land dispute, the tribal enemy among our people. But it will be up to us, we the people of Upper Nile State, to bring that peace. Talk about reconciliation. Talk about forgiveness. Talk about coexistence among the communities. In the early of this year, I make a promise to myself that I don't want to be a part of the toxic discussion that's been happening in the social media, even in Clubhouse. It was a New Year resolution to me that I want to be seen as a positive change among our communities here in diaspora, as well as the pace of Jing Padang media when I talk and present on the issue that's a matter to us. The issue of land dispute in Upper Nile State, especially between these two sisters community, cannot be resolved through the barrel of gun. It can only be resolved through dialogue, through litigation, that these two communities of Jiang Padang, the Dongjol and Ngong Lwalayak, and the Chuluk Sholo, could come and talk and present the case of who actually own or what is the boundaries between these two communities. You know, when SPLM in government signed a separate agreement with the Agulek forces, it was surprised the people of Jiang Padang because they were not part of that agreement. In spite of that, they were not part of that agreement. They raised their concern that the issue of the land should be the priority in Upper Nile State, so that these communities can sit down together, resolve their differences. And Jiang Padang on our side, we've been saying here, even in social media, even in this Padang media here, since last few years, that we are all open to the a litigation settlement of this issue of the land. Let the child present the side of the story in a court that they deem appropriate, when they say that they will not be able to be, that they can trust. And Jiang Padang will be able to defend themselves, say that we have not even grabbed a land of anybody. My message to the people of Jiang Padang, and as well as people of Greater Upper Nile State, Upper Nile State has been a victim of this war for long, and will continue to be the victim of the war unless we sit down among ourselves and say that we are one people. We are one community. We are one nation. Regardless of how we can differ politically, we will always be the people of Upper Nile State. Regardless of how you see me as a son of Jenga Padang, and I see you as a son of Maban, son of Koma, son of Nuer, son of Chola, we will always be the people of that greater Upper Nile State. You know, during our fourth father, they understood even what they call a boundaries issues, even between the clan itself. Orally, been passed from generation to generation. And that oral history that have been passed from generation to generation is what people of South Sudan continue to live side by side, knowing that the land belongs to so and so. And there should be respect among the communities. The land today is what defines people. And if it is what defines you as a human being, you need to understand where your lands are. I believe the issue of South Sudan is because of the absence of rule of laws and order in the country. Today is the community that have been living together for centuries continue to fight. And what makes it worse most, not because there was not fight, people used to fight among themselves, the community used to fight among themselves, even the clans. But it is a fight that involved the modern technology, the modern weapons, such as guns. If there was no guns in the hand of people of South Sudan, you can fight using a spear, you can fight using a stick, the way people used to fight. But even a quarrel between brothers, it continued to involve the weapon that cannot be used by the civilian. What will bring peace in South Sudan is accepting that there's something that went wrong in that country. And it will be up to us to fix it. We will fix it. The leaders will fix it. The community will fix it. The chief will fix it. Let us not look into different countries that they will bring the peace in South Sudan, or they will bring the peace among the tribes, or they will bring the peace. Let us not look into the Western world that they are the people that will bring peace in South Sudan. Another way, the solution to our problem need us. It needs the people of South Sudan to come together and fix it. Ladies and gentlemen, for the last 3 years, people have been talking about the implementation of access, that we need this peace to be implemented. The last 2 days, we have been seeing there's a war break out between these two rival forces. And who are dying are the people of South Sudan that are dying. Those who are dying from both sides are sons and daughters of the people of South Sudan. Among them can be the leaders of tomorrow. Who are dying, they are dying because of the absence of trust among the leaders. If we continue to fight, we'll fight and fight and fight. At the end, we'll sit down at the table and discuss and come to agreement. regardless of how the fighting may take long, it always ends in the table where the discussion and the reasoning will prevail. Let us be the agent of change and reconciliation. I'm talking to those in social media, whether you're in Clubhouse, whether you are in Facebook Live. We need to be the change, the agent of change and peaceful South Sudan. I may differ with you politically. That's how the politics is. There are those who see the way out of this South Sudan crisis, political complexity, that can only be changed through armed struggle. But there are those of us that see that no, that's not the way that we can see the change coming to South Sudan. It took the SPLM 21 years to fight. But at the end, it was resolved on the table between the National Congress Party and the SPLM. They sat down and they came to agreement, the Naivasha Agreement, the CPA, Comprehensive Peace Agreement, that was signed and resulted into the birth of South Sudan. There was a compromise. There was give and take among the leaders because they see that there's no way out until we actually sit down and talk as people of that nation. Today we have two Sudan, but the people of South Sudan are suffering, whether in the northern part of Sudan, whether you are in Egypt or you are in Sudan or you are in the West, we continue to suffer. We are all scattered in the neighboring countries. The only what will bring us together or what will bring the peaceful solution to the people of South Sudan are the leaders of that countries. The leaders cannot only work alone, they need the support of the people of South Sudan. We need to hold these leaders accountable of what they put our people through. Whether you are in the government or whether you are part of this peace agreement, you will be held accountable of what you put South Sudan through. I think there come a time where we can sit down and sit to reason politically or socially. Our people have suffered enough. I want to urge the government of South Sudan and all the partners in the peace agreement. What will it take for you to bring peace? Bring a complete peace in South Sudan. Will it take your seat that it's time for you to step aside so that the peace can come? We are told today that the peace will only come if you leave that seat, whether you are President Kiir or Dr. Machar, or whether you are other political figures in South Sudan. If someone comes with the phrase that the only solution to the problem of South Sudan is the leadership or is the seat that you are sitting on it, if you give the seat away, the peace will come. Is that what it will take? What will it take? You need all of us to accept that our people have suffered enough in the country. The Western world will not bring peace to South Sudan. You have seen the outcry in the crisis of Ukraine and Russia. Any country in Africa that is fighting war can look to itself and ask, what if it was us that were fighting? Some of the leaders in the West say it was something abnormal to see the crisis that happening where it happened. It used to be only in Africa or in the Middle East that people, used to hear that kind of fight. Well, as the issue of humanity, the war cannot be encouraged everywhere or anywhere. The war can only be used as the last resort after people have actually. But it's time for us, the Red Army, that say that the future, there's no longer future for us. If you are in your mid-40s, there's no more future for you. If you are in the late 50s or early 50s, I believe early 50s, the future is no longer for you. The future is for your kid. The future is for next generation that will come. Will you leave the mess that we have created, or the leaders have created, to them so that they could be the people who suffered? I just came live to, I usually don't come and talk that much, but I think it's compelled. It has to be, the issue that we love that country. That's why we are talking in social media. We need a message of peace. In the meanwhile, I'll share the links, and anyone that outside there want to come and share, talk about how we can actually resolve this issue of political deadlock or the way forward. There's no specific topic. We just want, we ask a question that what will it take to have a peaceful South Sudan? That's the question that I want, to explore and see what is in your mind as a South Sudanese. But let me talk about, there was an interview done by a lady called Dr. Carlos Berger. He talked about the Red Army. Dr. Carl Berger is an anthropologist, professor. He's a Canadian. He met with many, I think many of Lost Boys, even Red Army from Cuba when they came in early, those who came to Canada mostly from Cuba. They interact with these ladies. She may have interviewed most of them actually regarding how they went to Cuba, what was the expectation from the leaders of the movement, why they were taken there. And some of them have talked, they explain how they were taken to Cuba. Now the ladies came forward in the last interview and said that those Red Army that were actually groomed to be the seed of tomorrow are mostly from the two tribes, the Nuers and the Dinka. And I came to disagree with her in that notion that these two tribes were the people that were groomed to be the leaders of tomorrow during the SPLA. And many of activists in social media talk and to label that there was actually a hidden agenda by the leaders of SPLM to be able to educate some of the ethnic communities so that they can be the leader of tomorrow. As a person that actually went part of the Red Army as well. I disagree with that because there was actually a campaign where most of these zonal commanders were given a sign by the SPLM leaders, SPLM High Command, that the war of South Sudan is a war that may take time. No one knows when the war will end. And because of the wide leadership of Dr. John Garang Mabio, I think he gave these commanders an assignment where they would recruit kids to be brought to Bilfam or to Ethiopia to be trained as alongside the education as well. The issue why the Red Army were trained, whether you were in Tarpam, whether you were in Bilfam, whether you were in Dima, whether you were in Penedo, you were given a military training for the purpose of discipline. And the education was actually the objective of those leaders. I believe in 1988, 88 or 89, the leaders, Dr. John Garang and William Nguyen, Lema Call, they visit Red Army in Penedo. And they talk about the importance of education. Why education is very important. Education is very important because they took people to that camp, to Ethiopia, at the age of 10, 11, 9, and they were actually stationed without their parent. Most of them were unaccompanied minor. They don't have parents that were looking for them because they were brought for purpose to be trained. Most of them today, of course, they are educated. They are the generation that are more educated in South Sudan. But how the name Lost Boy, how many? How did it change? From an accompanied minor, from Red Army, became a Lost Boys, and why one ethnic community became majority, especially during the settlement of the Lost Boys in USA. It's for the fact that those Red Army that were actually in Penedo and those who were in Dima were the people that came to Eastern Equatoria after the fall of Mengistu regime. When Mengistu government fall after in 1991, I, among 100 of the Red Army left before the fall of Mengistu. I was in Kafota when the government of Mengistu had fallen. Even when the Kapota was captured, I was actually in Natinga. And I decided to leave behind. I decided not to come to Kakuma. I came maybe in 1994 after they were taken to Kakuma. I was passionate about the struggle, about the contribution that we need to be part of that struggle. I was passionate that I don't need to go to Kakuma as a refugee. I need to stay behind. And I chose to stay behind. But at the late 1994, 1995, I came to Kakuma. That is a history for another day. Many of us that left before the fall of Mengistu, some of us were taken to Bor, some of us were taken, some of them were actually stationed in Atinga, Nairus, along this eastern Equatoria. Some of them actually went and fought when Nasser faction was advancing toward Juba, when they destroyed Kafota, destroyed Bor. Most of the Jejel Aswad were taken, and the Red Army that were stationed there for long. Some of them actually became tired and fed up, said that we want to go where we want to go and fight and contribute to the struggle instead of just being stationed in these outforces like Kormashi, and so forth. So when people moved to Peñido, those that were in Peñido, they came to Pashala and Dima, they were in Pashala, and also they came to Kafota. Most of them, the Red Army that were in Bill Farm, those who were in Itang, those who were in Tar Farm, did not make their way to Eastern Equatoria. They made their way back to Great Upper Nile. Most of them went to Nasser. And those communities that were there, mostly are the Dinka, mostly from Upper Nile State, that came in the early 1990 or 1989. And when Mengistu regime has fallen, they were taken back to Upper Nile State by those of Dr. Lema Call and also Dr. Riek, and most of them were in Nasser. But those who were in Dima, those who were in Peñido, is comprised mostly from Jongole, and most of them from Unity State. That's why you see in the United States here we have a number of good sons from Unity State, from current ruling administrative area. Some of them make their way to the United States as part of the Lost Boys, and those who were in Dima make their way also to be settled in the United States. There was no Pacific plan that will take this ethnic community, the Nuer and the Dinka, so that they can come to Kakuma and be resettled to America. When the resettlement to the United States was totally different than the thought of the leaders of Aswele. I believe they came to Kakuma and they recruited people to go back and fight. Those who were able to go back contributed and went back in 1994, 1995, 1996, and they went back. It was used as also a recruitment ground where if you're old enough to be able to go back and then contribute, and literally you will be able to go back, and most of them went back to South Sudan. Now those who went to Cuba, are mostly, the Red Army of 1985, those who were trained, most of them were trained as part of the Mormor Battalion. Some of them were part of Korean Red Army. Some of them were the sons and the kid. They were the kids actually of the SPLM leaders that were in Itang. Yes, the leaders of SPLM used to tell us that we are the seed of tomorrow. The seed of tomorrow, it means that go and get the education and make sure that the education that you're going to acquire will benefit the new Sudan. Even the General himself said that we will destroy the old Sudan, but you will rebuild the new Sudan. When he talked after those words, he was not saying specifically that you, the Dinkas or the Nuer, will be the people that actually will build the new Sudan. He was talking to the people, the Red Army, that were mixed. As I said, those commanders were given assignment that go recruit people from your area, bring them to Ethiopia, so that they can be trained. Those who are able, old enough to be trained, can be trained as soldiers. Those who are not able to be trained can also be trained, but continue to be in school. Today, the story is being twisted by the opposition, targeting whether one or two ethnic communities. One thing that I can say, yes, there was nepotism when people were taken to Cuba, of course, but there was also a fear that the leaders of SPLA were actually afraid, the John Garang was trying to sell the kids. So the ordinary citizens that were in Itang by that time, some of them were afraid that I will not give my child away to be able to be sold, so that the SPLM will be able to get a support from Cuba. That was the notion then. So for the leaders of the SPLM to lead by example, they have decided to take their kids. And that's how most of them, those SPLM senior commanders, even Dr. John himself took his family there. William Nguyen, who have never taken the kid, Karbino Kwanyin Bol, Arok Arok, and the rest of the SPLM senior commander that were, the founders of the SPLM, SPLA, who were able to have the kids that were old enough to be taken to Cuba, were taken to Cuba. And when people come and talk about twisting the story around, I think they will be able to ask people like Pagana Mum, the former SG of the SPLM, because he was also the caretaker that was actually looking at the kid in Cuba. He can talk more about why there was some of the ethnic group that were actually majority. But remember, it was not that all, even the foot soldier by that time did not come with their families. Those who came with their family to Itang, to Ethiopia, were the leaders that knew what they were doing. But those who contributed to be a foot soldier, those who followed them, most of them did not come with their families. They came to contribute, to be a soldier, to be trained to go back and fight, for the freedom of people of South Sudan. So Dr. Carlsberger, when he said that those were grooms and being said that the seed of tomorrow are only ethnic, the Dinkas and the Nuer, that was totally wrong. That was not right. The objective of the SPLA was that all the people of South Sudan, especially the kids that were brought, whether from Greater Upper Nile, from Greater Equatoria, from Greater Barkazal, were meant to be trained and given a political orientation, the objective of the movement, why people were fighting, and also to be given that your priority is, the first priority is the pen and the gun. We will fight and we will go to school. We cannot fight. We need a generation that will be able also to replace the old cadres, the current leaders of SPLA. Now let us see, what did the leader do after they gained independence? Most of them, they knew, those of SG, Bagana, Mum, Sapakir Mayadit, the president of the countries, and most of the leaders, even including Dr. Machar, they knew very well that they have a kid that were taken to Cuba. That they have a generation that went for education in Cuba mostly. Some of them were still in Cuba, some of them made their way to Canada. And these people, most of them, they are graduates. Some of them were soldiers. Some of them went to the best training school, best training army college in Cuba. Most of them were doctors. Some of them contributed, voluntarily when before the independence of South Sudan, and went back to South Sudan and contribute, because they were medically trained and the expertise was needed in South Sudan. Instead of going back and ask, where are those kids? Where are those kids that were taken to Cuba? Where are the lost boys that were actually settled to the United States? It's time for you to come back. Instead of coming back to them and ask for the expertise, ask for the knowledge, so that they can contribute into the structure of the nation, so that they can contribute into the building of that nation from the grassroots, from the scratch. Because that was the purpose why they were first taken to Ethiopia. That was the purpose that they were taken to Cuba. That was the purpose that they were settled in USA, in Canada, in Australia, that make their way there. It's time for you now to come back so that you can be able to help to build this nation. Instead of coming back to them, no. They did not think about those generation, that the SPLM might invest in them. It was like you put your money in investment and you don't want even to ask what did I make in that investment? You invest your $10 today, and then 10 years later on, you can just go to the bank and say, I want to see my investment, did it grow? How far did it grow? That's exactly what the leaders of SPLM was doing. They invest in those kids, in that generation, instead of coming back to them, asking for them to come back to South Sudan so that they can be employed, so that they can use the expertise, whether in the West, whether they have acquired education that they acquired here in the West. They did not do that. It was only either some of them try to go back to South Sudan and persevere in finding a job. If they cannot, they stay for a year, 2, 3 years without, some of them decide to come back. That was unfortunate. It was unfortunate for our leaders, to turn their back to the generation that they invest the time, they invest the resources of those countries that were supporting the SPLA, like Cuba, mostly, and also in the West. It is something that we need to talk about it as the Red Army. I know that I said earlier that the future is now, the future is no longer belong to us. But today we are talking about the country that is engulfed in war, the country that is engulfed in lack of education, the country that spend the resources in neighboring countries, the country that most of the leaders working in South Sudan have their families either in Kenya, Uganda, the country that was termed by Professor Lumumba that it is like a breeding ground. And of course, that was right for him to say that, because South Sudan, most of those leaders, they either have their families in the neighboring countries. What can you say it? When there's no education in South Sudan, when there's no good hospital in South Sudan, when there's no good road in South Sudan, when there's no stability, stability in South Sudan, when you think about having your kids going to better school and you cannot provide them in South Sudan, where you think of building good houses in Kenya, Uganda, instead of South Sudan, where you think about having your money in a foreign bank instead of South Sudan, where you will spend most of your time in the neighboring country instead of South Sudan, where you take a vacation in Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, even in the West, instead of South Sudan. This is the country we are talking today. But for all this, I do believe that war is not the solution to those crises. War is not the solution to the crisis of South Sudan. The solution to our crisis is our own acknowledgement. Many of us acknowledge that something went wrong in that country and it needs to be fixed. And who will fix it? It's you, me, and all people of South Sudan. I'll take a break, I'll play music, and then I'll post the link. If you want to come, you can come. If you're able to contribute, you're able to contribute. We just want to explore the issue of South Sudan and how we see fit to be able to have a peaceful nation. Now there's a war in Eastern Equatoria. There's a war in Upper Nile State. 2 days ago, I read that the SPLM, IO, and the other peace partners are pulling out from the security mechanism. The expectation for graduation of unified forces that was needed, is in jeopardy. But for the next hour, I will talk about the election that people are talking about. Is election a solution? Or is it a unification of the SPLM a solution? What is the solution and the future of that country? Stay tuned. I'll be right back. to Anjinjal. Anjinjal get the German. Yakuseto Anjinjal. Anjinjal get the German. Bangabyawe, you know. It's a panayo. Bangadia Balupinrul. It's a panayo. Apunte, Doran Yanama Kubura dog. Apuno, Doran Yanama Kubura dog. Yes, the musician is talking about the love between ourselves, that we have to love one another as a people of one nation. جنوب we are متجرانتك طبعا نحب نفوسنا زي ما عيال مرة واحد ولا بوم واحد. طبعا جنوب السودان ده دولة بتاعنا كلنا، الدولة بتاع 64 قبائل بتاع جنوب السودان. الحب أجل مهم جدا، دايما بكلمه طبعا في البايبل إن الحب love transparent everything. We love one another. We have to accept ourselves that we are one people of one nation. Today we have people that continue to die in South Sudan for senseless war that should have not been fought in the first place. Let us talk about, people are talking about election, that the election will take place in 2023. If you want to come and join me, I posted the link. If you click on the link will bring you to the studio, and then we can come and talk for the one more hour before we call it a night. This is for those who are listening, that come and let us see what we can do, and also share the live video, please. So in a democratic nation, liberal democracy, where the election of one man, one vote, democracy is something beautiful. It's beautiful because you express your desire. People campaign based on ideas and ideology, principle. Since I came to this country, I've been voting, call it a second home. Always following the political leaders. You vote based on ideas, not because this person is from where, but I may be having a principle, ideas that, for example, if I'm conservative, sometimes I can vote contrary to my belief, because if I see an opposition that has good ideas and to lead that, to come and present and serve the people of that party, you can vote in that way. That is what we want in South Sudan. In South Sudan, that people compete based on ideas and principle. I said earlier that SPLM continue to be the most powerful political figures in South Sudan. Of course, they are the people in power. The opposition are not organized. They are in disarray. They cannot even unite themselves and try to figure out how they want this country to be changed. Some of them are accepted that they want to continue with the war. Some of them say that we better go to Juba and organize ourselves so that we can vote. But yes, South Sudan has never voted since we became independent. The war of 2013 has interrupted everything. Political organization in the country have never went smoothly as the people expected in South Sudan, where I can go and compete with my brother here, Abulek Chiluk, and the rest. I can compete with brother James Wangsong in the political arena. I presented my ideas that I may be better than him, or he can be better than me, of what he needs people of South Sudan to serve them for. South Sudan is a multi-party system. I believe so. And if it's a multi-party system, I think we can give it a time for South Sudan to go to fall. But a country at war, we can examine what will it take for people to go and vote actually. It may be, we never had a census to be able to know the population of South Sudan. The last census was done, I think, was in 2010, when Sudan was still united. Today we need a conducive environment where political leaders can go and campaign and present the ideas in the areas. I can see a good movement of political atmosphere in Upper Nile State. Recently, the visit of SPLM Ayo, governor of Upper Nile State, Abudok in Baliet. And I encourage him also to tour other counties in Upper Nile State and preach the message of peace and reconciliation among our people of Upper Nile State. That, if leaders in Juba disagree, that should not also affect our people in the ground. I think that's a message that we want all to cherish by other members, whether you are a member of the SPLM IO or you are members of SPLM IG or SPLM, as you said it, or other political parties. Political differences that always led to war cannot be encouraged in South Sudan. Let the leaders disagree among themselves of how they want to see that country, direction that they wanted to take that country. But if they decided, to fight, they can only fight, but should not also, spread like a wildfire, like what happened in 2013. It started in Juba, now it has engulfed all South Sudan. Even the communities that did not used to fight before, they continue to fight among themselves because of the absence of rule of law. Everybody has a gun in his hand. How are you going to conduct election when there's no peace in South Sudan? What is most important? Is it election or to have a conducive environment? What is most important is that everybody should at least accept that we need a peace in South Sudan. The most important thing is a conducive environment. Before election can take place in South Sudan, and I believe even the leaders in Juba themselves can agree with me or other people that are talking about it, that we need a census, we need internal displaced. Maybe they can vote, but about the refugee in neighboring countries, those who are willingly to go back to South Sudan, will they go back without security? Will they be able to go back to their homes if they don't feel secure? Who will provide security to the people of South Sudan? Will we have unified forces graduate that are mixed, that if don't see as supporters of the president or support of the SPLM-IO leaders, different factions within SPLM-IO, don't see yourself as supporting Bagulek, but see yourself as the son of South Sudan, where your role responsibility as a military is to protect the constitution and the property of people of South Sudan and the life of that nation, but not to be pursued and fight because Kir is my tribeman, Riek is my tribeman, Johnson Lynch is my tribeman, therefore I will fight because he told me to fight. This is not the country that we want. We want a country that if you are, whether you are police, whether you are wildlife, whether you are prison guard, as long as you're members of armed forces, we need to see a unified forces graduate so that they can give at least a sense of confidence to the people of South Sudan. So tomorrow, if people go to cast the election, if the SPLM won, the losing party cannot wage a war because they said that the ballot were rigged, the election was not free and fair. Therefore, the only solution is to go back to war and fight. The other option is that if the Arusha agreement, the unification of SPLM can work, where we can say that all these leaders, including the former SG, Dr. Machar, can go back to his post as the deputy chairman of the SPLM, Salva Kiir as the chairman of the SPLM, and they can work together in that nation. Whether they can stay there for without and trusting President Kiir to be the president of the country for the next election, if that what will it take for people not to die in that country? Can it not be a solution to the problem? Because we believe that any election that is not organized, any election that can be conducted immaturely, will result into another bloodbath in South Sudan. I don't think that's what we want at this moment. I agree with the election, but we need a confidence in the system of South Sudan. We need a confidence in election commission, independent election commission that cannot be seen as favoring other political parties. We need a unified forces that if you graduate it, they can work also the issue of disarmament, because everybody in South Sudan has a gun. Today I'm sitting in Malakal and I hear that my leader did not come as a, I may persuade them to go back to war. If SPLM IO, for example, won, and I'm not happy with that, I'll say, okay, the war is the solution. The same thing if President Kiir won as the president of the elected by the people of South Sudan, Dr. Machar was saying maybe that election was not free and fair, that the election was won. The same thing with the other real SPLM or SOMA or other opposition parties, OPP. I think people need to think critically of how the election need to be conducted in South Sudan. Yes, we agree that there's a need for election. The procedure of election is need to be taken. Security should be the priority of the people of South Sudan. That we need security to be the most important thing. Today we have thousands of IDP and internal displaced people in South Sudan. I'm not going to talk about millions of people in refugee camp in neighboring countries, because the repatriation will be voluntarily repatriation going back to South Sudan. But they cannot voluntarily accept to go back if there's no conducive environment where they will feel secure, where they will have their families go back to school, where they will have a good hospital, good roads, where they will feel that the government is serving them. Hello.
Hello, Banyabiel.
Hey. Hello, Eddie.
Hello, Eddie. Long time. And Pialai, Malaysia and Taudichola, no button and lawyer who got I near left Karang in a mart.
Okay, quite that you know, can we air what you
Yeah, Pinda Chijo there. I think there are called just side dash a
Oh, okay.
Yes, hello, Eddie.
I think Raja, like Pialgo.
Hope you lie me the Pialke.
I'm with the Pialga, I keep on up here.
I hope you lie, hope you. Long
Welcome to
time.
Jim Podang Media.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
was talking about the South Sudan political complexity. Yeah. What will it take to bring peaceful South Sudan? Actually, Lana, a lot of issues. SPLM is pulling out from the what they call the mechanism, the security mechanism. They don't want to thing. They try to flow out of it. I think that the forces clashes in Upper Nile State and issue one everywhere. There's a war in South Sudan. So any kind of buying jumped in briefly. They cover you add. You can just there's no specific topic, but just only overall issues that are affecting the country.
Thank you, Abiel. Kalabaluel, quite kegwiping. Kagabaka moth, quite ping, quite be, and by ping, wukidang pay. Kana bai kada wadi quite to junub ku quite to cod way to kemi kala jin ran ci ben de ci ditene enough so e riang da bai ne te yenta bo wa ci ran do to mi pande nyang pin ku jel ne ka chalu le biag de chwet akuma to bai panda junub acha kuma wande long jan kana bai te pet ku kana kan ta loy ke paga bai chok pin ya long bai ci long ku kana long pen ache ko ga long ka liu kwa che long an chi le got lakin akuma to nyal achi long ko long bu ke ga kwan chok ko ke bi ya lui ke che bi ti ya tak ke ana ran tak yen en bi ya loy ku yen bi ko ja ping e kana achi ba te lo twen achi pi te bo achi tong te ka achi chok te jel achi ba te guir achi akuma te ne tie biya lwela kuma kana cha woj ku kana cha ting ka dia leu kiasa panu junub ku kana eloyetet ajan tin kwerun bi ka ya jam bu koy to kweto kwer bi koy riya ko won lwel akuma ama kichiran lwel yen wa election be ben ka yen ating achin ka bige achin ka bige ka bi loy ka diga ma e bi koy wan ti kai we koy wan ti kai we kwa chi long de pi ti ka bay ti ka dong nim chien non chi pi den we bu dok ku election of loy we bu la ko ya bi la chwet kene yena ena bida di tin ben ke temim but de kina kuma yen ngey loy big to ko ci ting non ci en kwal kene loy system un pet ci manun ci nen loyel electoral commission ci bi ya koy ka kuma ku legala lon ko koy to parties ko koy wana kuma tinga de kene ke loy ko ci pet ka pi da ci ngor ka taw wa ke raidi ama tana tingen bi election bi dik ku bi junubin ku bi parties da ka kit ka to pa an junub bi election bi dik the all parties ka bi ka electoral commission bu kwan bi ayi party bi grana bay na the party registered a chayin ran ti da Thomas Chirilo yi pagana mum kunya ku bai bi piat ala bi ka lek ulul ki wek election abo ko ku bak ben wo ko kun bi to within this election so the electoral commission will form from the all parties and within the all parties the big like new keeping independently without influence from the government from any one particular party and then they form the leadership of the electoral commission and then the chicken will form akuma ko be observers big their freedom big their namlao electoral commissioner big their constitution could be interference from the government from any party from anybody big ya free and fair be observers big town big ya part of the electoral commission from the East Africa to the Africa Union big town and IGAD and even quite international community big town thing na chi yen guiria ka security na korot be all these forces UNAMIS all these UNAMIS forces Junub Sudan ajweki they are there with a very good number and I think organized kuchika gamuk sulie with the same body of the electoral commission before bilala bi ku bi election organizers big kegla train ku med katin ka kwai de ka gamuk sulie kwai de ka gam to bi ko ya chwet kwai de ka gam monitor ako bi ya kwai ke big ya kwai ke big ya kwai won ke the United Nations and top its own Sudan plus the police plus the police who quite train quite electoral organizers could be chen judge NATO of the security and team maybe Masaba around the polling station could be bigger deal queen the same quite new ten quite peacekeepers jaydan observers ka taw bigger deal queen in that polling station could be at the deal with deal chal could big deal transfer quite electoral commission ke the same accurate number yen chirkachi chitafin because polling station ako big ngich kake di according to the counties could be there security bidil ngijeten to be there interruption an rebel can interrupt could be election be react or government can interrupt the polling station could be election be react could be queen ke king rong ye loy ke the interruption kake kale bia kuma ko nyutin could be ke loy to ko be bai be piap so ayen ke chalwel ena ting chan bi election bia fair nong junubin ben ebi their good campaign below even ke bany ke to ke candidate big chig campaign below juba ama chig campaign chig managers campaign managers ke we are to watch or parties representative ke gaya ke ye ko chwet man to kir miya man to lama kol man to any party candidate lazim be within chat within all these 10 states plus 3 administrative big deal chat so that big la lekoj na lo ko bi in chat in bi tie to al ku yin bu koy lek kana yen ko baloy and I think this can bring confidence within the South Sudanese people. They can have a hope that things can change. Again, yeah, look like UN. Allo big at PH, could be quite tall within the refugee camp in Kenya, Uganda, Ethiopia, anywhere. Because allowed, could be Louis board, could be IUN, and because Louis and be election be monitored, could be gam quite South Sudan plus quite electoral organizers the big kwany quite South Sudan who big organizing big band law in a refugee camp but ben if you that anything I think but my observation it is just a way of escaping the peace agreement be a little no chugo kwan peace luele a chugo implemented because today in tongue a lot appear now in Upper Nile State tongue appeared in Barkazal Mantawa BA by chul gadeb every day binti walwela de tongue kiroloy then libi ko chwad di a chin chwal bitaw and all these armed forces whether from the government from the IO from Kitgwang if they agree with the peace and for election, then there will be a rule because gam ke ye quite mogu poses kan. So anything acting and it's not easy. Well, thank you for time. In the de kabaleng na de kalaba ba tejen maybe alaba joba leng ala.
The issue of the election in South Sudan is very complicated. The procedure of the election especially tena South Sudan imagine dollar can call of the ritual sense kai kinga queen at the top of Genova clan again. Ko shami election be low, you need to have census we conduct it in every state and the period of city free. You cannot hold an election based on the figures that 2010 one ngod Sudan ngod kan dollar. So community of Sudan ke ko de ko lo ta ba ne confident le moto ni no yen en moto la chwa de tin bien yo with that security and tawe ka kan ka jama jamana a very important because actually unified forces because they graduated because they mix round yo ka kin kan ta forces round ci dang be be ci na dang a chana election na tin kana bi a mishela ba den le loy mane ko ngor mu dan ga kin jinu Sudan no le 2023 2023 is not very far away, just a few months away from here. Maybe below share Saba or share Sita or share Rashad, I don't know. But depend on below next year. So next year we need to figure out the government need to sit down and think critically, including the support of these peace partners. The most important thing is the graduation of the United Forces, Unified Forces in South Sudan, so that anybody that does not belong to the organized forces, the gun can be taken from him. Dan kabir ko lo tawan a census quite queen about neither how many are eligible to vote? Because nobody knows who is eligible to vote in South Sudan. The figures that are 2010 now they're not in the places. They make a deal, and they go to Sudan, and this one will not be counted if they are going to be in neighboring countries. Sudan, just to make a vote. This will take time. Yes, we are all for election, but we need an election that can be organized. Independent election commission. We are independent without, favoring anybody. Had to be formed. Without backing the striker. Last week, I think 2 days ago, I had striker, and they had a meeting for Juba. They are all for election. South Sudan need a democratic election. But before election take place, they have also they need something to be implemented. They need this peace to be implemented. They need security arrangement to be implemented. They need election to be conducted in a free environment. And now there's a war. The issue of cattle raiding in Equatoria, the issue with tribal conflict, and general Jabta BI tweet. Within us, IO, SSDF, and they are one government. They are the same government that are fighting. Because the Machar is the first vice president of the country. President Kiir is the president of the country. So if you continue to fight among these two leaders, the forces are fighting, then there will be no confidence among the citizens of South Sudan. There will not be confidence that there will be peace in that country unless the change needs to be done. The change, United Forces have graduated. They go around Chinjindang. So it's something that needs to be done. It's good that we have to talk about it. Yes, we can talk the one, but we will not make change because we are not in a position to change. But we are in position to let our ideas or opinion to be heard within ping. So the issue of election is a concern for all of us. Soma is against election. Two Soma, there's some of the Pagana Malonga one. What are some of the Thomas Cirillo and other parties that are here? The people they are against this election. Within countries in South Sudan, there are those who are against election. Dr. Machar is not fully committed that election will take place. Government is saying election will take place. How will the election take place if your two principles are not in agreement? We need election to be done in South Sudan. So election is a good thing because we need a democratic change. And if that was what will take for country not to go back to war, then the election will be done. But election that, if President Kiir lost election, for example, you will not say that the election was not fair, it was not free and fair. But that Riek lost an election, you will not think that because President Kiir has the resources in his hand, as Riek in that election, it's not free and fair. Okay, election and all result will be accepted by anybody that whether the winning or the losing party accept it. but the election go left it tongue and the election they can encourage and because we like tongue can because election na loy ka can loy organize a another war will break out and that war will be very more devastating than this war that we are in now. So it's something that needs to be done. We are asking the leaders, President Kiir and SPLM Ayo, to be able to put the differences aside and work for the benefit of people of South Sudan. Because I said earlier that there's no another picture. The picture belongs to the kid. But the future that we are talking about is now. What can we do to be part of that contribution to Junub Sudan? Whether here talking about it among your friends from another ethnic communities, talking about it within your community. Yes, talking for Junub Sudan is too much. People continue to die. And actually, when we can. Why do we have to talk about the issue of South Sudan? But because in the year, we are part of Junub Sudan. Indirectly we are affected by this war. Directly we are affected because of the point of Junub Sudan. Because of this hunger. Because of the Jinpana Kimbiato. Because of the neck malaria, so something that needs to be done. It's good that we have to talk about it. So the issue of election, yes, we need election in Sudan. But the other part of this, if election is not taking place, the big government and work they rigid no 5 vice president, work they 500 and something member of parliament, work they 150 council of state, members of council of state, 150, 160. The parliament, the central government, the parliament state, the parliament the trade themselves. These are the huge government. If we are not going to go for election, then we accept that yes, this government, the government will be this for the next maybe another 3 years to come. Correct? Of course, that's not what we want. We want a small government whereby these members of parliament that have nothing to contribute, they cannot even write a law that can be effective in Junub Sudan so that they can go back to their homes. Because some of them cannot do anything. They cannot do anything totally. They cannot even pass a bill. This bill has been passed by the member of parliament. They were just appointed. They don't go to the constituencies to come and talk about the issue, what affecting them. But they are residing in Juba. They're residing in hotel or the houses. They are giving huge money. They are giving cars. And they cannot even bring a change that is needed. The only way for this change in Sudan, electoral art system will be implemented. Then they change, if it is implemented fully, in that spirit, graduate the unified forces, and let us go for election. That's the only hope. And the Sudan when they hope in the late. Then I think the ban more do Upper Nile State. Upper Nile State taban jogle they are all related the same thing issues with a conflict of the issue with recently taban governor Chile tour went to Bali counties, the deputy governor one I can chatla my wood league no much more of the Salama reconciliation or Chile Manyo, I think so. The area of the northern Upper Nile. So we need to tell them that yes, this is a good initiative in the government. Let them be the bit because the moment talk when jam more than one to war. I think the sense that people will understand, we need book the railway because now the chairman for Juba, which chicken for Juba, then cannot affect our people here in the ground. We need because there's salam. I go more than get a banin with the regular, red and rake. Yeah, the chip rate at the one another rimchilo can but at least kedona tingna to bang kedona to jam to go tam ngoro pal ka ci wo ko pal way ken be piji be gon mi dit ni be ken ka wal matin da ande ko baje le mo do ken lo matin
banya bial intale ka cha ke lo achin go bug lew ko wo ya ka chit ka jam tane lakin ketin bugu ya luel ali bi ran pingen ali bi ala ping wa kita luela ni na la electoria ka tonga bro nyok tonga bro nyok aban ka loiro diran ti da biel dai ko dai aban an tira na ayo lakin to woni yan dai tin ran ti riga dai to bear ko ke dil ko ke tin bi da kwe won bi loitin ke bi ko tong piot kini yana kana loyal a ci jaman ku loyal electron na level loy fast phone a de kini yana loyal electron loy fast phone na frecha e tinga be ben ne ko bi gam kato ko juje ci ko bi chwet a chan ko won ta loyal a chin security aliu said Fiji County tag danga ci ko bi chwet ale big this election ale big by court because I ci rare by so na ci rare by big la chwet ke ye ko big la chwet ke ko Balit County big la chwet ke ko Maluth County big la chwet ke ko Rang County big la chwet ke ko to know ke county to know big la chwet ci rare by so can one of the issues the security ci ke la big chwet ana ci la chwet ci be accurate number bike gala tuo na chi ko chwed ma lut a chi bede their own box a chi bede their own box gala this is for the PG people chi jal chi la ma lut chi jal chi la rang chi jal chi la bali chi jal chi la akogo a chi bede their own boxes bike le so abike tao a boxes ko bali or wherever they are so ke MPs ke ga cherka tao mena ke MPs ke PG abika jo chwer ke kwa ga jongle kwa ku ka ja chi ke to within jongle kwa ja le ke chwer be ya ke upper Nile or northern upper Nile e mo fruit ke these MPs e big lega kuma either chugo bi chwer or ba mo to nin kwa bakate la bay so that big la chwer by a chinde bi wo ke a chinde bi box ken ballot box ken a chinde bi ke latin ba a chinde bi ke latin ken akin ke leng and I don't think big MPs can a cake. If I vote in Baliad, I'm voting my vote is going to Baliad MP. It's not going to PG Karang MP representative because I'm still voting in PG. So kachiri kake e kato. Kuke e system lui mess kangi. Koi kibichu admia. Koi ka administrative mantawa BI. If this war then within tweet kuja karang. Ki the good peace bro loy interruption and be out of moralin kele baleng e kene yi a chin biya ga che jindi di da go ga chalwe ne biya the chat the quite the quite ga jongale they have a big problem within jongle ti man ka taw piji quite ka bor quite ga tuje ben yi mangala a ci ben ikatoria a ci ben yi mangala so boxes ken ale biga le a big reach la jin a biga ja queen counties a biga jo queen eten a big one and I don't know to dan big loyen but I read ki la jin a chiga myo je te na kin ki tek pin a kin ko tek within the community a read ki ko ponim so voting then ale bi there ale bi ngwan ale bi loy but ke the in wo jiman to buma it is hard to kana ko census ko kana ko unite jej when amanam united forces because graduate ku big insecurity big law be there good security big law within the demonstrative big law within the counties ku big la deploy big security big la tapin kana e ko korot ni biag da chat rana benepin na chiran bentu du ke kamane ko lu ko chagaran got ke yina le balwela man chiranan benting eda da joy wal yan piol gop keran kanan tina gon be tawo yen tong ki yera na moton taw pan jeng akuj ke loya kuma ko akuj kana ping kana lege na ran ti raw ka kuma amaran ta kuma nya ko chir kaga akora na kuma bilo ku bilwele na to kuma tinki chadwan ti gabna chat ran ti to kuja governor the central of Nile is very good adiga red is good or I mean northern upper Nile and it is good being work mugatin big nyog loy again and I think a chick to did a chick loy man wan chick again my wood kwa chick lo ma ban to chick loy did but the problem within Jongole the big problem within Dinka in Jongole there is a problem with their neighbor there is a problem and that's why man kiko get yilobone chike lo wa kwa je ki jalata sandu ken dato bika leten is the same ki chir ka dan a chin sandu ka bor bika le bika la chat yilobon or bika la chat that the karang in Equatoria ta so kwa chi bi chat because the biran lan chi dong cha chat an chi do cha chat bi ngoloi ekele bi akuma bi lo organize and I think that's why emakwe yen luel ke so the mikela ti wok bay because they duk bay because chat aba baya la chat pando tibere yi chi chat ku ine citizen ku ku chi la chat in a wrong place where you are MP representative achi tauta so kana yana makwe yen luel but the chile bi jo luel very clearly but one of the good thing because big dog bay ke ku bi ko big la chwet ti ke ge nyar bi election bi loy bi peace bi ben wa kena ene ke bro loy akuma to nyar ni ran ti da biel ti won ti ne loyel ku le ba ske di bi ga loy di wan yen ta kuma the peace one ti en loy pom adeke am peace ken the government of national unity I think MPs came to Kwan from the parties, from the SPLA, from all the parties. And again, Kira the same MPs can one Kakuma. I think a yoga Tawan cake. So now county within one payam, I did there two MPs
MP.
from the SPLM government. Because Ran Tibayan Ran national unity representative or I mean MP representative kuran ti be dong nam tin ke ran te won to ko ke ro chi ga to ko ka dom ke wu ko ka de riat ko ka I don't know bika chwede so ke lo ya kuma kir ako bi akuma bi to ya pa bi to ya and ken ke ye gen ting so we hope for the best ki tong ki ro beloy kuna ya bi agda kuma is confusing achan biten by president that to big chapter while five can big rare ko koy ga rare ya kwakin international community because we frecha it is okay with the government then again think but my last word ya lwele na ko international community e be there warning bigam ko leaders of South Sudan from all parties with their general mugej because gam sanction start from key with the five vice president and the general from the IO, from the SPLM, from the other parties, be sanctioned bitao on whole bitao ke warning the cake. Now the IE general don law violation le loy timane etong ro loy ero loy dun talimat from the president wala from the from the vice president or from the general koi kaka ko abuke sanction why che sanction bu pole ya na chi ko chwen nya ga pi de ben those sanction abuke lo follow up ko abuke accuse ya ke ko wen chi pi di chi lo chi violated so yir yang ma cha ko big peace violated. Okay, okay, okay. You can go now. That will come. Okay. So all these leaders, BL and I think they are playing a game, and this game is dangerous to the South Sudanese citizen. Quite mam, quite ko peace, quite ko big la pur, quite ko big rocket match, quite ko brand dog pan the bill rare ka launum. It is dangerous game for them, but it is a good game for the leaders, and which is not good. So kek bany, mo fruit, big ngich, ko big bay le coach enam lao na koki ku bu ko ru pala we ku be wa pol jaman bi election na kira bin wa chwet riga bi jeng chwet all these parties are because chwet ran tiri lama ko la bela chwet jeng wala bi chwet nwe wala bi chwet yi kan so they supposed to go to those tribe areas and say I'm sorry. Ki have to go to Nuer, go to Chuluk and say sorry. Riga have to go to Dinka and say sorry when it is same round Chilema call. So that people vote willingly. Beriak bi chwede jeng ke bany de junub. Bikir bi chwede nuer ke bany de junub. So kaka ene ko koro ti won chinen tie because big chat ku big la luel peace bokene peace met ko irot ku election met by abichen ayo ku abichen SPLM party ke yene de karang ko kai ka teka yi ku the other party nan ti jamare dina biel in bapol wa thank you no damana yen chaloy chirer I think it's getting late for you there but it's okay chan kan bai biya jamit biya jamit
ade kana ka ma page ka ke page da ba na ga chila wan tun ci gram riek kila
sorry
woni ka ke page a chila ram riek wan wo ka ba
yeah
na ade kana ko le ko na le ko na wo jam tun chula jaman ka ke page ka chok ke e ka pa na le tiok na tiok ke dan boru ne city ga je kam do sirp ta jumle ngo mena ka jay riel chan bi la jam la jamana yir yek ma yin ban kir ma yadi wo ko bo dang nim apana stil an malaka lan tiok ke gara di de tuma ci le daba na de modern do ndak malaka le modern ga piji kula chwet ben kula ko bi la chwet ka to malaka la le bi tem le chwet piji tan le dong malaka le chwet da la ben dan tiok ka service kaman mo le ma yi pana ki ma de ran ji twan ku tin pana kim bi to piji te pana kim pia de ka to tin malaka na tiok ke tan la na de go tem go la wala reta kira jo ka kene je kirlich chan ke big jam big la kuma de junub sudan wo pa do da ni ma panal state ran tid joshua da ta bana ban kan ga bana kan be tije na kan ka ba be ti na le dog zaman na ne ngo mashila chi de dog big dog de na ka to big jo na jongle yana chaka ke ko yana le de ka big yok tin wala le pia de na de ka dog jawta malakal be ga pata panal state pan chok de chok ke ki ma ta malakal woni ne capital city ta malakal zama wan ci ka taw wan ci bay tegi taban is nile ka ci bay malakal wan be ban kamal central panel ke to ga part da je part ta malakal lakin wan ci koy dog ta state ka yeko lel wan jamana da halta mashakal ke jongle be zat alla bigi dil ko ci ga ka dog dong ne malakal be ga dang ni ma panel state kene bange ke jongle man ka pg kene tie hel ko tin ne ko race le ga jam banji man taw yi ci grom kir ma yari ma ci grom ran ci rek ma char bi lagin ke one of the request political request den da wan dan ke gro member of parliament jagal le in tiop ko ro fi kulu melban election le ben bare mkai tegi dan election da ban abika chode karo ar mu jota bura ta kula tem che karo ko da chiran to che karo kula ben ta ko bes ikulu mel mana election ka te wan ti ko kwente ka kula ar ya mi ngi jam ka dan bi le ko ya jamana nas pele ma ayo wala nas pele aji wala an soma wala an OPP wala an DC da lema kol boje mi jela ke tong rito baden achim la bay ke kuma din man ko karo be ke bay en kenen ka martin na de ke tino martin ngabla kenen jal ka baje jala kenen
ya banya biel kan piji ka chalwel achiran yaren bu koy rer biya jongle even ke koy ko jongle ci man to bor zato achi wo kya kor bu koy rer ten achana ngiki achin ka yoku kwa chin ka gam ku because in moton in ko bi yin loy tax bi da taxation ku bi ka tax nongin in bi pingo pan ro bi ya chat ko fin in bi ya ka de char state kana in bi ta ka ta fin ya ba ya chat non fin all these thing e bare return ene kuma de kana yok to do but wo kirer fi jongle so akuma de jongle achin ko lui ku yen koy ka jongle e kitin achin ko lui ku jongle achi ko wo kya ko wa kana yen loyrot taban koy ka yes kuna era yes ka yin inti ka diga yok because ana ka diga yok era no luel balagran le no ku ja yet jaben ja yedu jaben luel yin bateni yin ye da ran danga ne gam ka chin kala bayok achin kana tingare le achin kare le even because law in the parliament of South Sudan kula ku be there petition letter we got kula parliament of South Sudan work from today onward we are not part of Jongle the parliament will be lo discuss kwala big will be lo resolve will be quite dang nim here because majority quite yi within the parliament of South Sudan they know that wo chin kana wo be Jongle ni chi ko jo chak ben teron but right now achin kana support be work by Pinyamet, achin services, achin any contribution, taxation, gama kuma de jongle, aliuki. So why are we there? The only MPs bijola rare in the jongle state, ulwele MP de jongle, keran Fiji. That's it. Can I can go on? Work go ye citizen ta Fiji County. Kulwele na work achin kalu contribute. But politician, cause siyasin mana chigi jaro. At the undercover politician a decision loy say ti man to ko ngwen te man to ke iran ti de in man to yi wiel I mean yes I mean ti man to yi joshua do I mean joshua do ka iran dit ke de ale ping ale bi yo ko ki at any time na le na tok za to ko le wok gel jongle ale bi ki ale bi ke de ale bi gam. And he's there, Achinkolo is not an MP, but a politician land when under
council of state tawan ke council of state ke tinga de real big counties big dongnam ma big bay one
yes.
ke speaker the council of state Makal County one to Malakal chiban jadwan klero wo god bele long to the man in na jamana Makal pay Malakal pay chiban jad klero long to ran ti den taban Joshua de real we can be baby council of state be damage wo ade kene ko kor no tioko wo taban ya services Malakal tioko wo ata daban ta kan wo ko to ko Malakal working farak jongle amme jarri wonen bor me ke wo acha member of parliament dar shema ya chat le ba chat batara ma ba chat ya ko e jabelo lakini ata malakal ba ku ye wen bo tem gula malakal kula do to won chi kwantin ge member of parliament ke yen ta ba ne ran chi jo chona le bidil tie je ye ko le ben club house next time aba ti ko zen kana ngor le acha no ka ge jong le ka ge pg ba ga dang nim apana state ngo me chila tine kini acha le bidil ta ti ta ban ma eno e kana chela administrative do danom tuan bi yen tin te yen kana ka ba mati thank you.
Yes, ke chalwel te de yina biel ran chid wiel ami ran chid
Joshua
Joshua Daw he has a big role the le big play akuma de junub and he got a big role eki ren ping tok uke ping tok aya dang other elders within the South Sudan to government kene ko jo dal Iran chid banya biel ye ka ja to ke ran dit ko mena atek tok siasa akini tek tok yen kutaw ke ye MP ke my interest ina lwel ne ina beloy even ke lwel da to ran chid jochuo alu undermine kwala ala sabotage because kidi na ko bi baloy ku bi ping ke chid kane ina ko bi nyai communities interest personal interest bidil nyai MPs ke jongole I mean MPs ke PG emu fruit bigoro mad Joshua Dow whether ke MPs in the national government MPs in state government emu fruit bigoro mad ran chit Joshua Dow ku other politician elders community elders big new ping ku gat ki petition ku leki Joshua kana at ene ku ting nu koy ka dog makal achin ka loy ku ten achin ka loy ku wo wok dog rot ku neng la kuma le wok why ngo yen jai neng le wo why na ye ka te wan ti loy ka kanga chi ka ge ten state wan BNB e charab ke ene le ene dia ke ge wala ga ke 32 state wan chi ki taw achin ka chiriok achi ki ka da ben loy why ngo kene PG county yene iriel gala chi loy ante e koy kwanyen chok ka liu una kwanyen chok bilag ran chi de bilag state of council of state bilaten ki bilaten ka yi ko le biro ping wa wo ko we citizen working problem the problem at all politician koy won dit ke elders koy MPs people with their own personal interests within the community koy ke ka lwelen no koy ka re jongle because ade ke den ben ko ya kol nyin ben ko ya kol nyin jongle ten jeting banala yena jot la ler jeng chil ka wo gieng wo ga wel kwa lwel yi chaga mo nyan kai wala tundi ke yan lwel kidi but ade koy ko ga ting tuo de na bike gala rew kwa bike ko ya la ryong nim all this ke ga kataw wa yen ekene kwelo rot koldang ke dit media padang media kana kule that time karan chit jochuo dane dew ala bugu chol bug ben tiejen ban ke yaran dida ekene bitugdi bugu jo woy ki chin wala bug woy bo chin wala e wog bien jo loy ke kada ako be tie ke teng te ko ji yina biala chit dik ayiran yon ko ba ben ke yenwe biag nasser ba ben ke ye be biag de chuluk ting na chi wok tagi kriel de na to wa wo ko ja med ke yi kwat a chi wo wa pa jan da wa chi ko murle chi la manam lo nyak kan ti la ka taw ku ko ke ka chipo ko ja mar ke ji kwat That's why ki ka ruben administrative chi and loy be talk administrative. So ngo wo ki ko wo madi you kwat ku wo the reason made you work kin services ku ka yo within the state. So kachin kana yi ala bi wo ran chit ban jo chwa daw den kol chin ala gwir ku ko nim law ala bu dil chol ku bu ben tiejen e taw ye piaw wala tinga de krele kala bi yen to taw ci jemi e ko ke ge ko je ke citizen ke county ko ala bi ka ti ala bi da referendum a cha within the family ala bi loy ala bak referendum loy in the family cha yen dinner tay ko ngaglo le yana cham chips kulwen ngaga na cham McDonald's kulwen ngaga na cham you make referendum you make voting and yinga bimat kulwen ko bigla cham KFC. So a referendum is to make you free and fair, to make you feel free. Akana jay ko wo ye citizen ke PG, we can make a referendum if citizen take the problem. Kuna politician ama MPs, then we need to have them. No problem then. Wa kachid kage wede kang polchok woke jam na ye pan borasa achilo biro loy because kai ke tie bany tie but woki bany ko tie e jolo la bany ka bi bany luel but bany chi ko bi luel kachid kanina biel is a very good question and really especially me I don't really like it because in this jungle because within jungle boke paisato I think Richard Ping kachi wo gala to music. We don't know where we are within jungle that. Wo kida kop kom len ne joye nam chokten yoke kweden bila re wala bila no. So it's not good. And thank you very much in Bapol for the show, for the time, for the concern of the community Kukalo Road for in South Sudan. Thank you very much. Jamachin connect. While be there and lapping Achiran one manco, a bankir, a banyriak, other Bangkok, Kikoy Junuk, one day, one time round a Ben Gabang, or by Kum, and we will support him or her. So working problem. And thank you very much for the time.
Thank you.
And
Thank you. That's good. Next time. To the viewers of Jing Podang Media, is coming to an end to the show of today's discussion. South Sudan political complexity and what will it take to have a peaceful South Sudan. It has been good for those who have joined me. I want to thank Brother Chomin Luak for coming up and share his thoughts and ideas on how we see to move this country forward. I would also like to thank those the audience for the last 2 hours. I've been talking here. I'm not that talker, but sometimes the issue of the country is compelled one of us to come and spend time with you guys to make sure that we are concerned about what is happening in South Sudan. You all want to see a peaceful South Sudan. You want to see a South Sudan where you will be able to live peacefully, where you will, mind your own business, where you will not have a worry about what will come and affect you, your livelihood, and livelihood of our people in South Sudan. South Sudan is a very great nation. The future of South Sudan is very bright. I know we are in a muddy situation where there's a war in every corner of South Sudan. But now I will just want to spend another 20 minutes, half an hour before I close the show, to talk about what the legacy will mean for the SPLM and the leaders. You know, in a Western world, people work so hard to build a legacy that they will leave behind for the generation. In the Western world, is the name recognition is very important based on the political legacy that you left behind. Where if you were able to leave a good legacy, that means your children and generation to come will be much respected for the legacy that you have built. Now, one legacy that does SPLA leaders want to leave behind? Do they leave behind a legacy of historical? Because when the historian will write history of South Sudan, will always be muddy, the muddy of a struggle. People like President Kira spent the youthful fighting for a nation that when they see better nation, a nation of equality, a nation of human rights, a nation of have that freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, a nation that you cannot be treated as a second-class citizen. And that's why when they signed the CPA, Dr. John Garang himself said, we have brought peace in a golden plate. It's up to you to decide whether you want to be a second-class citizen or the first-class citizen. Of course, people of South Sudan have opted to be a first-class citizen. The 64 tribe of South Sudanese have decided to be the first-class citizen of that nation. We are all equal. We are all equal regardless of which tribe you come from. The 64 tribe need to be treated equally. If I went to the restaurant or I went to the airport, I should be treated as equal as other tribes among the 64 tribes of South Sudan. There's no one above me, and I am not above anybody. This is the nation that we all want. The nation that we will leave behind. And I think that's the nation that President Kiir envisioned when he went to war of Anyanya 1. I think that's the nation that Dr. Machar has envisioned when, after he graduated from his PhD, decided to join SPLA. I think that's the nation that Dr. Lamakol has envisioned when he joined the movement and be part of the SPLM. I think that's the nation that the leaders, the founders, Dr. William Nyon Bain, Kabina Kwanyin Bol, I think that's the nation that they envision, that the nation where they will be equal, where their kids and the kids of anybody will be equal in South Sudan, where we will compete based on ideas and ideologies, where you will compete based on how you want to serve that people of South Sudan, where you will not be treated differently than the son of the president, the son of the governor, where the son of the farmer can also be treated, can have an opportunity to be the leader of that nation, where the son of the cattle herders or cattle keepers can also have a dream to be the president of that nation, where the sons of a fisherman can also have a better future, where he can dream to be the president of that nation. No one born to be the president, no one born to be the governor, no one born to be the commissioner, no one born to be the member of parliament, but we can all dream. We can all dream to be the people of that beautiful country called South Sudan. Today, my son can dream because he was born in Canada to be the prime minister of this nation. My son can dream because he was born here to have an equal opportunity like any members and any Canadian that came here 100 years ago, because he has the opportunity. My son can dream to be somebody, build a better future, because he was born here like anybody. This is the son that we need in South Sudan. My son can dream that he can go and contribute to the betterment of that nation. My son can dream that South Sudan can have a good leaders. My son can dream that South Sudan can be equal as Canada and have a skyscrapers as Canada and has a tarmac road as Canada. My son can dream that when he goes to South Sudan can be treated as equal as anybody that was born there in South Sudan. That is the nation that we all want, my fellow countrymen, my fellow countrywomen. That South Sudan is our concern. South Sudan is our making. And therefore, it's up to us to make sure that we put that country into the right track. It was a muddy way, but there's a hope. There's a hope that South Sudan will come out from this mess. That's why many of us spend time to come and talk about the issue that affecting that country. The issue that will have a country that will have a free and fair election. A South Sudan that leaders cannot go on actual vacation in the neighboring countries, but can vacation in the suburb, in the villages, in the riverside, in the River Nile side, in the Sobar riverside, that you can go on vacation there, go and have a fishing, to go and hunt in South Sudan, where that if you are in vacation, you cannot vacation because you are going to Kenya. We need a South Sudan that can have a better hospital, where if the leaders have a headache or have a disease, cannot dream about going outside and get treatment. A South Sudan that can have a better doctors. A South Sudan that can invest in a generation of educators, generation of doctors. A South Sudan that can also think about sending people to moon like any other nation. A country that can have all unlimited resources, but continue to be at mess because of the visionless leaders that put this country to war. We are all hopeful, ladies and gentlemen, that one day we will be out of that country peacefully, that you will live peacefully with your neighbors from Moro, from Nuer, from Koma, from Shiluk, from Tahili, from Latuga, from Zande, from Jurchol, that you will all mix in that country. We are all equal. We need a country that will have a rule of laws, that if you make a mistake, you'll be treated as individual, but not a generalization based on your tribe or ethnicity. A South Sudan that if I fail an election, I will not campaign my tribeman and say that because of so and so I was not defeated fairly in a free and fair election. This is the country that we all want. A country that young John dream for. A country that is say that there's no a country where we can have a full country without people that are contributing to it. A strong country militarily, South Sudan can be strong in the Horn of Africa. I appeal to the leaders of both parties to implement access in letters and the spirit. We need peace. We need peace. We need peace. Kika balwel okaje ke ping ka bena ping pana Junub Sudan e pan ka wo godi whether Tafi Junub or Tafi diaspora ko book their contribution to that nation. What I will do, I'll play music and then we'll come to close this show in 5 minutes. Thank you for watching. For those who did not get the opportunity to turn in and participate in the discussion, there'll be another days where we can all talk respectfully. agree to disagree politically, respecting one another. We are all equal, and we are all bleeding. We need to see a country of dialogue, but not a country that the war is a priority, but there's dialogue, peace, and reconciliation is what needed in South Sudan. We need to hold these leaders accountable for the crime they have committed to the people of South Sudan, whether you are in the government or whether you are in opposition. Thank you very much. It was good for joining me. Just want to say good night, good morning, wherever you are. See you next time.